Hello again. We're discussing for EcoBuild the consequences of the Copenhagen summit, whether you think it was a failure or a success, what it means for the efforts that are going on in this country on the ground. Let me turn straight away and first to Mark Clare of Barratt Developments. You've got a couple of problems, haven't you? You're being obliged to go down a low carbon route. You've got no choice. You're having to innovate. This makes demands on you. You've also had a recession. Now, how do these two things intersect or collide?
I mean, we've really focused on making sure that we can deliver the solutions. So we already have a level 6 home already built. We have a number of demonstration projects around the country that absolutely test the technology, and we're starting to get the customer input as well. But we're at that very, very early stage. What we've now got to do is move to mass production. And we, as an industry, have got about 6 years to do that, which is quite scary. But what we need is our supply chain, we need technology changes, we need dramatically more innovation than the sector's ever experienced before to deliver these solutions at a much lower price point.
And it is a big challenge, Nick Rainsford, because the price has got to be right, and as Mark Clare says, the customer has to be engaged. Now, the customer is in a pretty battered state at the moment. What makes you think that people will respond to that kind of message at a time where they maybe have other things in their minds?
Well, the good news against the otherwise bleak background is that we've actually made very significant progress in recent years. And compared with the sort of quality housing that we were building 10 years ago, today's new homes are already, even though they're only halfway towards the 2016 target, very, very much more energy efficient than they were. They make it possible to live very comfortable lives and dramatically reduce their fuel bill. So there's been quite significant achievement. We've got to go on with that. The biggest challenge, however, is translating that into the existing housing stock, where we have a huge backlog of very, very inefficient homes in energy terms that have got to be retrofitted.
How do you do that?
I think there's a combination of measures necessary. You've got to firstly find a package or series of packages that work for significant numbers of properties, scaling up. You've got to ensure that people get good advice on what is the realistic, cost-effective solution for them, rather than buying windmills to stick on their home thinking it's the right thing to do when it's clearly not. What you also need, and this is crucial, is financial arrangements to enable people to meet the cost, because the upfront cost is going to be significant in some cases, and the savings will take a number of years to come through.
So how do you work that trick, Sinan?
Well, I think the overarching thing to remember is that the carbon agenda is part of the solution to the recession, not just a great big impediment to spending the right amounts of money.
But that requires quite a leap of faith.
I don't think it's so much a leap of faith. It requires measures, fiscal measures, carbon pricing, modest grants or immodest grants. I'm quite happy with those as well. And arrangements that actually make it in people's interest to retrofit their homes and actually to see it as a positive thing. Because actually, you know, the more energy inefficient a home is now, the better the savings. So there's kind of a paradox here.
Keith Clark, you've talked about what the engineering industry has to do over the next 5 or 6 years in terms of reforming its thinking, jumping ahead. How does your industry fit into what's being talked about here?
I think for the infrastructure of the world, we will have to have a different relationship with the regulators and with government. Most of the stuff we do has got a lifespan of 40, 50 years, and you're making strategic decisions now. Not incrementally. With housing stock, you can do it incrementally, but not with the infrastructure. You design Crossrail now, and that means we have to lead on those discussions with government, and government acceptance, public acceptance will meet us at some point. Well, there is an act of faith.
Well, you see, Mark Clare, if we're talking about public acceptance, you've got to, frankly, sound as if you really believe it, haven't you? That's the bottom line.
I mean, in a way, here's a cop-out. We're regulated to do it.
Yes.
So we can say, well,
whether you think we believe it or not, we're doing it.
We're going to get on and do it. We're going to keep the cost as low as possible. We're going to make it as simple for the householder as possible. Otherwise, we could still fail. So that's really what we've got to focus on. I think for the existing bill, which is the much, much bigger issue, I think you're going to have to pull every policy, fiscal, marketing lever you can to get consumers from where they are
Give us an
today.
idea, give us a fiscal idea.
Well, I mean, every 7 years, on average, people move house, and there's a stamp duty payment. Can we not somehow use an incentive or a disincentive if your house is not at the appropriate standard, and you tighten that over time?
It's this business of making it good news rather than bad news, Nick Rainsford, isn't it? That's interesting. Getting rid of the hair shirt.
Absolutely. If we start by saying everyone has got to lead a thoroughly miserable life, there's absolutely no chance whatsoever. What we have to do is for people to say, gosh, I occupied a low-carbon house the other day, and it really was a pleasant experience. I rather enjoyed it. It wasn't as...
You've got a low-carbon house, haven't you?
I live in a low-carbon house, and it's marvellous.
What are your heating bills?
Heating bills are tiny, literally less than £100 a quarter, even in the winter, cold winter quarter. I mean, this is a completely different experience to older housing.
Actually, Nick, those are your heating and electricity bills because you have CHP.
Yeah, exactly. So you're dealing with...
Walking advertisement for the new age. You see, there's a lot of penal stuff going around. People say, well, you could have a system where, you know, if you don't have a house that conforms to certain things, it's illegal.
Well, you could flip that. You could give people a tax rebate on their mortgage interest. If you've increased your energy certificate from an F to a G, you know, 2 grades up, you get 10% of your interest tax-free. And actually, that's even better, because if I don't pay tax, that's my money I'm getting back, which is worth more than your grant money.
It's what you referred to earlier, Sinan. I mean, there is room here for a lot of imaginative thinking in government. I mean, tricks in a way that you can play.
There will indeed. And more than that, they will actually... I have enormous faith that we actually have the capacity, the very science that allows us to predict what might be happening in terms of risk, allows us to look back 800 million years. That very ability is the ability that allows us to solve the problem as well. Because carbon is costing the Earth. So if we actually simply make people understand that, it'll be a welcome move. And people will actually respond to that and find their own solutions rather than being told what to do, because you can't tell people how to live their lives.
Do you think, Keith, that a proper working market in carbon really is the fundamental point here?
It's the fundamental end point. It is not the next 5 years.
How do you get there?
With a very careful shuffle of pricing, regulation, encouragement, and using every lever, occasionally trading, which I'm very cynical about, where you shuffle this acceptance forward akin to no smoking policy, where you could not have banned it in restaurants 10 years ago.
Nobody mentions it now.
With all these policies, the crucial thing is that people don't actually know how far they've got along the route until eventually people realise, gosh, we've done it.
But you mustn't sound as if you want to pull the wool over their eyes.
No, but it has to be done very subtly so that you can't have the prophets of doom saying this is all ghastly, it's going to end in the end of civilized life.
Well, in the end, if they occupy a house that conforms to progressive standards on the carbon front, they've actually got to enjoy it. I mean, if they don't like the places, that's the end of it.
It's got to be a great place to live. And, you know, part of the challenge for us is, you know, we can build zero carbon homes. We need to get a lot of experienced people living in them, because it is quite different. And, you know, there's a lot more technology deployed as well.
And by the way, we're talking about zero carbon homes, but we should talk about neighbourhoods and cities,
communities,
infrastructure,
right.
and actually our cities will be more pleasant. There'll be more opportunities to be healthier and easier ways of reaching your destinations, not by limiting travel, but actually making it possible.
One of the big solutions that we're very keen on is the idea of a community solution. So there's a new build development there which puts in, you know, a large local CHP unit to provide the energy and the heat. The heat goes to the local hospital and the school. It's free. The electricity is used for existing stock and new stock. You've actually put in something that's going to change the whole community, not just the new dwelling.
Massive potential there. Massive potential.
It's curious, Nick Rainsford, finally, isn't it, that after Copenhagen, which was written up as such a damp squib, people like you who are committed to this agenda are talking with enormous enthusiasm about the possibilities. Is that whistling in the dark, or are you confident?
No, it's not. It's a recognition that there are huge business opportunities for the countries that are the leaders and show the way in terms of new technology, new processes, new ways of doing things that then can be sold internationally. So there is a great commercial advantage for the UK of us doing this well, but there's also the satisfaction of knowing that we are demonstrating, as I think we have in recent years, how we can both create better homes, better environments, and do so in a way that drastically reduces our carbon.
Thank you all.